We're following a forgotten railway to a strange colliery building hidden deep in these woods. A railway that was said to have bankrupted these colliery owners. Along the way, we'll uncover an even older way coal was removed from this valley long before the railway arrived. Morning Phil, you alright? Have you had a good Christmas?
Yes mate, New Year, not too bad. Usually I like to just sit at home doing not a lot, but I went to the big smoke.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I know, but it's okay.
That's going to sound like a really stupid question when this video comes out in March, April, isn't it?
That's true, yeah.
See you in the flesh anyway.
Same here, yeah.
But we're coming to do I suppose it's a revisit. I don't really do revisits, but this is an old railway line on the outskirts of Sheffield that I did when I first started doing this channel back in very early 2021. And this is the railway that ran up to Plumbley Colliery, and it's known as the Penny Engine Railway, and it runs from Renishaw and it runs in to the Plumbley Colliery site. If you know the area, it runs basically into Eckington Woods in the Moss Valley. I don't want to rip off that exact same video, Phil, but I am going to be following the same route, and I'm really excited to get your take on what we find, because it was quite a while ago. This is the Midland Old Road, just to give you some perspective of where we're standing at the moment. I was just going to say it's a freight only route, but there is some services that they do diversions, and there are a few services of the day that come this way from Chesterfield into Sheffield. But this line, this Penny Engine Railway, this Plumbley Colliery Railway, that left the old Midland Railway just near to, I can't remember which way around this station names are now, Renishaw and Eckington, or Eckington and Renishaw, and it's just coming, and there's no visible remains of that junction now, but it's just leaving here, isn't it?
Is that it there on that ledge?
I think so, yeah. So we need to get over the other side of the river Rother, which is just running by the side of the field here. So there's a bridge here, we'll head over and cross over, Phil. Don't you just love exploring this time?
Yeah, but look at this here.
We've got to get across that. I knew the access wasn't great to the junction. I tried a few years ago to get there, and we're on the trackbed now then. This is the trackbed.
Yeah, I'd say definitely.
The junction's only just a short distance up there. This is very, very boggy land round here. But the interesting thing about this, Phil, we've just been talking about it as we've been walking up, is there's a pretty straight run of what's quite obviously a railway embankment here, isn't there? We'll see it as we walk up.
I mean, this railway has been built with the idea in mind that this is a floodplain, isn't it? So, you know, it's had to be built fairly higher up, but the golf course, luckily for us, hasn't encroached too much and ruined this, because I wasn't sure what state of play would be with this, to be honest, and it is surprisingly clear. I mean, look at this.
Yeah, hasn't it? And you've just been mentioning as well about the very, very mature trees that are lining the route here. There's actually a reason this line had such an unusual name, the Penny Engine Railway, and that's because this wasn't just a colliery railway, it actually carried passengers, and you could ride it for a penny. Date-wise, I've got down this one, 1873, while 1901. Not a huge lifespan, you know, just over 25 years, less than 30 years.
What, for this branch or for the pit further up?
For this branch. Do you think there was a bridge here then? This footpath crossing here?
Yeah.
Definitely a bridge.
I'm just wondering though, if that path, where it is now, if it was dead straight, would it have come here up? And it's been realigned a little bit.
It does kink, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can sort that out by looking at small maps to get confirmation.
So this is an interesting little spot here. We've got a footpath here that's dissecting our Penny Engine Railway here, look. Going off there. This is the old set cup tramway. I did a video on this a number of years ago. I think we're talking about coming back and doing this because this is a fascinating little story, and there's some really interesting old arches that I think are listed. So we've been on an embankment, haven't we, most of that way. It's flattened out here, but it seems to be quite a drop here.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. That must have been dropping gradual as we walked along. We just didn't notice.
Now, I've wondered whether or not this little bit that we're coming to here was some kind of a cutting, but it seems to be a little bit low, doesn't it, this, if the railway went into here. But it is having to go down to duck under the road at some point. So it must drop quite a bit.
It's not a particularly deep cutting though, is it? So it's possible. I mean, the line could have dropped just gently on the approach to get under the road. Yeah, but like I say, it just makes you wonder a little bit with the difference in height between here. But where we first started up there was half a mile down there. You know, it's had half a mile to sort of drop down. We've not been paying any attention to this section because we've just been wandering around the side of it. That's it. It's the approach to the overbridge.
Even though this line closed well over a century ago, bits of it are still hiding in plain sight, as we'll see as we make our way through Eckington.
So you might notice a little hump in the road just in front of us here. This is where the railway's passed underneath. I mean, what little remains there are of this line engineering-wise, this is quite a...
Substantial.
Yeah, I mean, look at the corner. So we're on top of the bridge now, and that's looking back towards the junction with the Midland Railway down there. So there's your trackbed, Phil.
Yeah, well, that's been filled in, hasn't it, look? Actually,
Yeah.
I wonder if the arch is below us.
We were just wondering what remained of the bridge in terms of the infilling, but it is infilled above the arch.
Yeah, it's much deeper, this one is, look. Surely the arch is... Oh, yeah, they've filled it in, look. This looks to be original depth, though, doesn't it?
Somebody's there. I think the gardens, they take up the trackbed these days. Just the houses on Peveril Road. So what's the situation down there then?
Infill.
Infill above to the arch again. Still? I wonder why they've not levelled this bit out like this then. I mean, this isn't an original plaque. It says here, look, erected by John Rhodes, 1873, renewed 1986. Funded by T. Cope and the Eckington Preservation Society. Yeah, so that's the bridge. So we've now crossed over into Eckington and we're going to have a walk down Peveril Road. And this road runs parallel with this railway line, doesn't it? The railway line's just over on that side. This house is just up here on the right, and it looks like that they're now using
trackbed, haven't they?
Must have been a decent cut in that. So this is the other end of Peveril Road here. And I say we've been walking parallel to the railway while we've been walking up Peveril Road. And we should see, here we go, look. Here's your bridge, Phil. It's under that ivy. Here's one of your dressed stones on the end, look. And here's the coping stones, one missing.
Not bad condition, really.
No, it's good. So it's another substantial remain, look, on this road. And there's the other side of the bridge. A little less obvious on that side. And look, this name of the railway, the Penny Engine Railway. Now the road that runs the Newbill cul-de-sac is right on the side of the road, right by the side of the railway line. That still carries the name, look, Penny Engine Lane. And what we're going to see at the other side of this bridge then, so...
Infill,
but the cutting's still there, look. That looks really, really deep. You're not getting in there, are you?
So is the arch there, though, at the top? Well, could be. It goes shallow there. I just can't see enough.
So right where we're standing here, this was a footbridge. You see, you can see this on the map.
I think so, yeah, because this would have been a cutting. Look, if you shine down past that skip, that's the bridge just down yonder where we were just sat looking, and it came up here, look, against that wall, the retaining wall there, look, past the red trail, and it's under us here. And as you can see, it kind of branches left a bit here. I'm pretty certain this is what was infilled by council, what would they call it? Landfill or refuse, whatever, where it curls round,
Interesting. So there's our trackbed, look. We were just stood at the other side there, well, that footbridge. So
just round the corner, And this is where they've infilled the cutting.
And this has been turned into a track now, a roadway, a woodland track. This is Eckington Woods, this runs in the Moss, this is Moss Valley. Beautiful part of the world, this. If you don't know where we are, actually, I'm not really explained our geographical location. We're just to the south of Sheffield. We're on right where North East Derbyshire meets the Sheffield city boundary. And this is where it starts to get a little more difficult, because the further we go, the harder it is to tell what's natural and what's the railway. Now, I've done a lot of miles around this wood over the years, Phil, and this has always intrigued me. Now, I don't think in my mind there's any doubt that this is where the railway line starts to deviate from where we've got this track over here. And we are in the right place on the maps, I believe. But I'm curious to whether or not the alignment of this path is on the exact alignment of the old railway line.
What, because of the height?
Yeah, possibly. But if you follow this up, it does start to deviate from the map where the railway line shows by the time you get to the top. So I think if we go up it, we'll see if we can figure it out as we're walking up. You're looking for a shelf down here, Phil, are you? Think there's...
It's so difficult to work out. There's a slight shelf running along there, but even that's been hacked at, hasn't it?
Yeah. Lots of depressions, and there are lime kilns down here. But looking around the lime kilns.
It would have to stay fairly level, otherwise we're talking inclines. So that's why I'm swayed to it being down there, not actually on this shelf that we're sort of thinking, did it come up here? Because if you pan down there, look at that, that's almost incline material, that is. But it is steep, isn't it, actually? It's just too difficult to know, isn't it?
You know what, Phil, I keep saying I've spent a lot of time in here. I've walked through Eckington Woods with local history experts and things like that. You know, I've been on guided tours here, and there's still more questions over a lot of things you come across here. It's a fascinating place, and there's a lot of local knowledge around stuff, the mills and the old industry, and the wheels and the old dams and reservoirs. Fascinating, this place. There's a lot of water under the bridge since this railway closed. There's a lot of changes. If we follow this track up that we're walking on, it spits us out above the Seldom Seen Engine House, which was the old engine house for the Plumbley Colliery. We might be completely cold with this, but when we was on that top path, we thought we started retracing where we thought we could see some rough outline of a cutting or some kind of channelway that looked like it was engineered, and it's difficult to tell because there's so many depressions and things in the land around here.
No, I think this is where this photograph I was telling you about, I think this is where the guy was stood.
Photograph? So was it from when the railway was in operation?
No, it was just a bloke showing you the old approach cutting to Plumbley Colliery, and it had got all ivy growing along it, and it was in summer actually, and I'm almost certain it was looking this way.
This does look more like
this is it, yeah.
Well, that makes sense. I did say that I didn't think that track was the railway. I kind of already come to terms with that. But this is a great time of year to do this, though, isn't it?
I mean, this has had some sort of clearance. Look, you can almost see markings where a vehicle's come down here. Look, so I'd say this is it. Saying here's your approach.
We're not far from the colliery site now. We'll start to see like this spoilage all over this side. I've never approached it from this direction, but straight in front of us here. So, if I'm looking at the maps, Phil, and where this railway comes out in relation to the building that we're about, that we're about to see in a minute, then this is, I think, bang on the money there, Phil.
Yeah, because that building, if you look on old maps, I think it's just above of the line on it as it comes in, which is actually where we are now, look.
And if you do look at the maps, you'll see that this remaining building that we've got, the engine house, was part of a larger...
Yeah, one of several units it is.
Tucked away up here, this is where the penny engine railway came to an end.
So it's been good for you approaching it from here, hasn't it, as opposed to approaching from the top. It's made you look at it in a totally different light, hasn't it, as regards where the layout of this kind of railway line was coming in.
Oh yeah, 100% definitely. I'm usually coming from up there or from the path. It's usually scrambling down the embankment on my backside. So here we go, Seldom Seen Engine House now, Plumbley Colliery. See the taggers have got to it. The bars are off this window, Phil, if you
this one's gone in there. There used to be another arch there, look. It's been re-bricked up over the years, look, hasn't it? So this would have a Cornish beam-style engine sat in here, wouldn't it, doing the pumping? These great big Cornish beam shells that you get on various places, not just in Cornwall, there is some, up north. You can see where the wooden beams used to come across that have been taken down that would have housed the pumping device. I mean, I'm no expert on these things, but it's quite obvious. Unless it was for a floor, do you think? was the end of the floor, but they're not floors, are they? They're just the skeleton framework, aren't they? Would have,
like you can see at the top.
yeah, that would have held up the. I mean, they must have been to hold the machine up.
So the railway actually continues just a short distance just down there, Phil.
Yeah, I think it did. Yeah.
Not far. I'm assuming just a head shunt or something like that, or somewhere where they'd marshal. We just want to. We followed that railway. We followed the Plumbley Railway, the penny engine line, all the way from the railway down to Plumbley Colliery. That wasn't the first way that they got the coal minerals out from this area, because we have to go way back to the early maps to see that there was a tramway from where the Seldom Seen is down to this location here. And this is an area I've featured on a couple of videos actually. We stood at the site of an old dam and an old mill pond.
Well, from what we can ascertain, and it's not easy, the coal coming out of Plumbley was not heading down to Renishaw.
Not initially, no.
Initially it was coming along here on a tramway, which it's not easy to work out where it was, because if you look over there, you could argue that may be where the tramway came up to the foot of this incline, which we're going to show you in a second, but that may well have been a mill race because of the mills that used to come off.
There is a mill race that goes through there, because we found, last time I was here, we found all the stop, the sluice points.
But what we can agree on is at some point the tramway bringing the coal out of Plumbley definitely came out this way, and at some area around here, by some method, it was interchanged onto trucks that then used to go up at incline, which we're going to show you, up to a colliery at the top. What was the name of it? Did you look?
I did look. I can't remember the name.
Well something.
Westwell.
Westwell. So actually, when you look on a database of mines as well, Plumbley Colliery's location is actually not far from here, where we are. Not actually down where we saw the engine house. So definitely was the earlier Plumbley Colliery here, and for whatever reason it actually looks like it went across there, and by that time they decided to put a much more efficient link in to get the coal out, which we've traced up from Renishaw. So it's murky trying to work it out, but let's have a look at this incline and it might prove what we sort of half thinking happened here.
Yeah. That tramway, it kind of is more or less straight, and what I've got to realise here, you can see the River Moss down there. This wasn't the course of that river when we're talking of the days of this tramway, and that tramway's come across somewhere here, and then it's almost as though it's more severe than a right angled bend. So I'm assuming, we're assuming that there was some kind of transshipment going on onto the incline. And then the incline, the alignment of it, is straight up there, and like Phil says, we'll show you that in a moment. So here is the incline. We're stood about a quarter of the way up, look, but you get a really good view here, look, this incline.
It's much steeper than I thought, actually.
Yeah, I've always thought this. I mean, I've known this incline. I used to run up this incline, on my way home. It's ludicrous thinking that now. I never realised at first that this was a tramway. It was only when I started taking an interest kind of a number of years later. But it's quite impressive, isn't it? This is the way that they just cut their way through here. And this is I don't know any dates for this though. I have to say I don't know any details about this. Don't know when it came into existence, but what we do know, by the turn of the 20th century, the 1900s, it's not on those maps, it's just showing as a way, but there's no tramway there, so long gone.
So this would either been a foot crossing or would have gone over on a bridge, because this is a very old path. This right of way was always there.
Would they be having bridges all the way?
Yeah, would it be worth it? Would there be health and safety warranting enough to avoid incidents with public meeting trucks? That's hard to say. What were they thinking back in the 1870s? I don't know. It wouldn't be a hefty bridge though, would it? Let's be honest. Look, if you look at it, wouldn't have to be high even, would it? It's hard to say.
I mean, you'd have to assume it's narrow gauge, wouldn't you? Way back then, what we've seen rudimentary tramway systems. Double track, was it one up, one down? Gravity weighted incline.
Was it a turning circle for horses to turn stuff, to bring a couple of trucks up at a time? It's just no idea whatsoever.
This place for years, Phil, has both fascinated me and frustrated me, because you've got a really, really well-trained eye to spot things from, and we're probably a lot more experienced of doing this stuff together and individually as well, and when I last came and tried to document stuff around here, still leaves me perplexed. I still walk away from here with more questions than I have answers, if I'm being honest.
Well, two sets of eyes are very good. Problem is now I'm walking away with your scenario because I've come and looked at stuff around here and I can't piece any of it together at the moment, so it's frustrated me a bit.
Well, we only come just to trace that initial railway though out today, haven't we? You know, I've not come prepared to be
bamboozled
by other stuff, and I didn't think we were coming to do this little bit of extra tramway, which is still, there's, again, so many questions, but it's so old. There's just the documentation behind it, and you know, and I've asked these questions before in other videos and on social media, and I don't think I've really had many people come forward and been able to fill in any of these gaps before. But there we go. Always worth a trip to the Moss Valley if you're in the area, or if you're not, it's well worth a trip. So thanks very much, Phil. Thanks again.
Pleasure.
Always a pleasure. It's nice to be out again.
Yeah, definitely.
It's nice to be digging around and undergrowth detectiving.
Yeah, thrashing around in undergrowth. Seem to spend more time doing that.
So thanks as always to anyone who supports the channel, all the channel members, anyone who sends me a contribution in any way. It's massively appreciated. So take care. We'll see you soon.
Yep. See you. Bye.